In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the difference between past simple and present perfect, and the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous. Let's review these tenses and then I'm going to point out what's the mistake that students often make when they start using these two tenses. Alright? First, let's talk about time. We can divide time into two categories: time which is over or finished and time which is unfinished. Time which is finished is easier to understand. It's things like yesterday, last week, last year, and so on, right? It's over. It's clearly finished. Unfinished time could be, for example, today. Today is still going on. It's not over. This year is still going on. It's unfinished. So, what you have to keep in mind is that when we're talking about finished times, we need to use the past simple. And when we're talking about unfinished times, we should use present perfect. Let's take a look at this sentence. I studied a lot yesterday. That would be fine to say because yesterday is a finished time. Or I could say I studied a lot last week. Also finished. I could say I studied a lot last month, right? Those are all correct because we're using the past simple and we're using a finished time with them, which would be correct. We could also say, if we're talking about present perfect, we could say, I have studied a lot, right? I have studied a lot, which is present perfect, this week. I have studied a lot this week. Now I'm using an unfinished time because the week is not over, so it's unfinished. I have worked hard since 6 a.m., since 6 o'clock this morning. I have studied a lot this year. I have studied a lot since January. Since January means from January till now and including now. So it's an unfinished time. So this is what you need to remember about time. And I hope this explanation will help you to use past simple and present perfect correctly. Now let's talk about the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous. Both the present perfect and the present perfect continuous tenses focus on an action that started or happened in the past, and there is a present connection. We have painted our new house. We have been painting our new house. What's the difference? You can see the present perfect, have plus past participle. The past participle is a verb plus ed, or if the verb is irregular, we use its form number 3. For example, take, took, taken. Taken is the past participle. In this case, painted is the past participle. Present perfect continuous, we have been plus verb ing. Of course, if we have he, she, or it, you need to use has. So, what's the difference between we have painted our new house and we have been painting our new house? Present perfect, this action is finished. We're done. Our new house is painted. Present perfect continuous. This action is ongoing. We're still painting our house. I hope that makes sense. Now look at these sentences. I've tried to solve the problem. I've been trying to solve the problem. You can see I'm using I've. When you're speaking, try to use contractions as often as possible. I've means I have. Both of these examples refer to an action that happened in the past, and they're connected to the present. I've been trying to solve the problem. Now I have a headache from overthinking it. Present perfect. I'm done trying. I've tried so many times. I'm done. I'm not trying anymore. Present perfect continuous. I'm going to keep trying. Yes, I've tried a few times in the past, but I'm going to continue trying. This is ongoing. But there are some situations when we can't use present continuous. In English, we have two kinds of verbs: dynamic verbs and stative verbs. Dynamic verbs are like action verbs, and stative verbs describe some kind of a state or condition. It could be a mental state or emotional state. Most verbs are dynamic. Examples of dynamic verbs are go, drink, run, work. And examples of stative verbs might be love, think, or believe. There is a long list of stative verbs which you need to know. Why is that important? Because with this continuous tense or any continuous tense, you cannot use stative verbs. No stative verbs, alright? For example, we cannot say, I have been knowing Helen for 5 years. That is wrong. Why? Because know is an example of a stative verb, and we cannot use stative verbs with this tense, so this is incorrect. And what we need to do in that case is just use the present perfect. We have to say, I have known Helen for 5 years. Have known is just present perfect, and that's fine. That's grammatically correct. If the verb is stative, we can't use it in the continuous form, okay? Let's take another example. You cannot say, she has been loving chocolate since she was a child. No. Why? Because love is another stative verb, so you cannot use it in that continuous form. You can say, she has loved chocolate since she was a child. We need to use the present perfect tense here. Another example. I have not been understanding the instruction. This is incorrect. Why? Because understand is another stative verb, and we cannot use stative verbs with the continuous tenses. So, what do we need to say instead? I have not understood the instruction. We use the present perfect tense here. Look at these examples. Many students have graduated this year. My friends have gotten married. He has broken his leg while playing football. The verbs graduate, get, break are not stative verbs. So why do we only have the present perfect here? Why can't we use the present perfect continuous? Are things like graduating, getting married, breaking something, things that can be ongoing? Not really, right? When you graduate, it's really one day. Then it's finished, it's not ongoing. When you get married, it's one day as well, maybe even 30 minutes. Breaking a bone. This is a very fast action. It would really be impossible to hear someone say, I've been breaking my foot. You can say, my foot has been hurting, because pain can be ongoing, but not breaking a bone. That cannot be ongoing. So now you know the reasons why we shouldn't use the present perfect continuous tense. 1. With stative verbs, and 2. If an action can't really be ongoing. So when would we use the present perfect continuous instead of the present perfect? Let's take a look. When we want to express a temporary or new situation, the present perfect continuous tense is used to describe an action which is temporary or new. She has been working from home this week. In this case, working from home is a temporary situation. I have been learning Spanish recently. In this sentence, we see that learning Spanish is a new activity for the speaker, which started not too long ago. Please look at these examples. What's the difference between I've lived in Canada since 2021 and I've been living in Canada since 2021? When it comes to where we live, these two tenses have the same meaning. There is no difference. The same goes for the verb work. I've worked for Google for over 5 years. I've been working for Google for over 5 years. Once again, there is no difference. Now I'm still working for Google, and this is going to continue in the future. Guys, you have been doing a really good job. I hope you understand the difference between present perfect and past simple, present continuous and present perfect. Today, we're going to learn about the past perfect tense. It's a special tense we use when we want to talk about two things that happened in the past, one before the other. The structure of the past perfect tense is very simple. We use had plus past participle, the third form of the verb. For example, had plus eaten, had plus gone, had plus finished. I had eaten breakfast before I went to school. Here, two things happened. 1. I ate breakfast. 2. I went to school. The past perfect tense tells us that the first thing, eating breakfast, happened before the second thing, going to school. We often use the past perfect tense in complex sentences. These sentences have two parts: the action that happened first in past perfect and the action that happened second in past simple. For example, she had left the house when it started to rain. First action, she left the house. Second action, it started to rain. They had finished dinner before the movie started. First action, they finished dinner. Second action, the movie started. We also use the past perfect tense to describe experiences in the past. It helps show that something happened before another event. For example, I had never seen a lion before I went to the zoo. First action, I never saw a lion. Second action, I went to the zoo. She had already visited France when we went there. First action, she visited France. Second action, we went to France. I hope that makes sense. When telling stories about the past perfect tense helps show the sequence of events. What is a sequence? A sequence is when one event goes after another. One event is followed by another. And there are many of them. There are many events. For example, after he had finished his homework, he played video games. First, he finished his homework. Second, he played video games. By the time we arrived, the movie had already started. First, the movie started. Second, we arrived. Let's practice together. I'll give you 2 actions and you tell me which happened first and how to use the past perfect. 1. Finish homework, go outside. He had finished his homework before he went outside. 2. Eat lunch, the meeting started. She had eaten lunch before the meeting started. 3. Visit London, move to New York. They had visited London before they moved to New York. Remember, the past perfect tense is used to talk about 2 actions in the past. One happens before the other. Show the order of events when telling stories or describing experiences. The structure is simple: had plus past participle. Today, we learned how to talk about actions that happened before other actions in the past. This helps us tell stories clearly and show the order of events. When we talk about experiences or stories, it's useful to explain what happened first. It makes our sentences more interesting and easy to follow. You have a creative task for today. Write a short story where the main character thinks about things that happened before. Use at least 5 sentences to show how past events affected what is happening now. See you next time!